All right, Livo2 World, welcome. Today we are going to do one of our basic protocols, the whole body flush. David Chamblee here in Atlanta. And on the bike, we got Owen Monroy over in the San Francisco Bay Area. So we are miles apart, but we're together on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you guys, I'm going to narrate Owen's session here on the whole body flush. And over, you can see the right-hand side, we've got the pulse oximetry. On the bottom is the heart rate, and on the top is the oxygen saturation. So we'll talk through all this, explain it as we go. And those of you who are brand new to Livo2, I'll try to talk at the most basic level to give you an understanding. Those of you who are more experienced, hopefully you can pick something up as well. Okay? So Owen's there on the bike. He has flipped over to oxygen. So we're starting the session now. He'll be on oxygen for a few minutes. And so let me just go into Livo2, the basic explanation of what it is. You see the big reservoir bag right there behind Owen and on the bike. In Livo2, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an oxygen demand in the body, and then we're supplying that demand. So the bag is broken up into two parts, 14% on the bottom partition there, which simulates about 10,500 feet of altitude. And when we're on the negative or the fill on the switch, that's what we're breathing out of. That mask is connected and breathing out of the 14% when you're on that setting. Whenever we switch over to the positive, it goes into the big part of the bag. Now you're breathing out of that, which is 90% oxygen. Okay? So the idea here is to create that oxygen demand at the 14% setting. As your body starts to recognize that you're not getting as much oxygen, which is usually about 20-21% in the air that you normally get, your body will start to compensate. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that body compensation. Usually takes 45 seconds to a minute, minute 15, depending on the person. And when your body starts to recognize that, a couple things happen. You get more red blood cells ready to carry oxygen more efficiently through the body. And then also you got vasodilation of the vascular system, which starts to open up, looking for that oxygen that's not getting. It starts to swell, kind of like a root system in the desert going out trying to find water. And so when those things happen, your body's primed for oxygen absorption. That's when we flip 90% on. Then you recover on oxygen. Oxygen dissolves into the blood plasma, connects to the hemoglobin, and gets really down deep into the cellular level, into the tissues, all throughout the body. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create that slingshot effect with oxygen demand. And now here comes the oxygen. Now you can push deeper into the body, dissolve into the blood plasma. So that's what we're doing. So over 15 minutes or so, we're doing 3 or 4 of these rounds. Keep pulling back, pushing the oxygen in, pulling back, pushing the oxygen in. Okay? So we're at the very beginning. So the first 3 minutes, we're trying to introduce oxygen to the body. Let's just say Owen's a brand new user, first time he's done it. He hasn't. He's a trainer. He's done a lot, but let's just, for this video, assume that he's a new user. And so we want to introduce oxygen to the body. Okay, so he's just breathing oxygen, watching the oxygen saturation there. He's at 100, so that's great. Heart rate's at 96, and that's great for the beginning of it. So when he flips over to the low oxygen, which he'll do shortly, now the oxygen saturation you'll start to see after about a minute, 45 seconds, will start to gradually drop. And as you get to that number and it starts to drop, and Owen is also going to start to recognize that, hey, it's a little harder to breathe. The oxygen deprivation is going to set in. And as that sets in, that number is going to drop. And as that number drops, he's going to pick up the pace and go a little harder, try to drive that number down a little bit further. Okay, and then once he gets there, we're going to flip to oxygen, let all the magic happen, recover, and then do it again. Okay, so that's the idea. So if you look over here on the right-hand side, the 100 on the top, remember the bottom is the heart rate, top is oxygen saturation. Oxygen sat can only go to 100. That's as high as it can go. And our goal is to try to get down to 92. Once we get to 92, 92 is that edge of hypoxia. That's right where we're trying to get to. So the goal is to get there. You don't always get there. Sometimes numbers don't move. It doesn't happen often, but it will happen sometimes. So if you can't drop to 92, don't worry. It just happens sometimes. And then once we get to 92, we're going to try to drive that number down a little bit further. Okay. And again, just for safety reasons, you always, when your body tells you you need oxygen and it gets a little more harder to breathe, you want to flip it over to oxygen no matter what number you're at. Okay. So that's the idea behind that. That's always your default. When you start to feel a little uncomfortable, you want to flip it over to the oxygen side. All right. Okay, so Owen, whenever he flips down to the low oxygen level, we're going to really start watching the numbers. Okay, so go ahead and flip that down. All right, so now we go from the 90% chamber, that's about 90% oxygen, the big part of the bag. Now we're flipping down. He's going to be breathing out of the smaller part, which is 14%. So he just started that. So we're going to watch those numbers. And remember, the idea and the goal here is to create an oxygen demand in the body. By taking it down to the 14, and that number will start to drop gradually, the body will start to recognize, where's all that oxygen? Where's that 20, 21%? Where's that 90% I was breathing? And when your body starts to recognize that, that's exactly where we want you to be. Okay, that's the sweet spot. Okay, so you can see over here to the right, heart rate's 110. That's good. And remember, with the heart rate, for the average person, 170 minus age is kind of what we're shooting for. That's really easy to do for most people. If you're a competitive athlete, of course, that goes up, anywhere from 225 minus age to maybe a little lower than that. So now we've got 111 heart rate. He's down to 98 on the oxygen saturation, so it's gradually dropping a little bit. He's at 97. And remember, when we get around 92, I'm going to have Owen pick up the pace a little bit. Now he's at 96, 95. Okay, so we're creating that deprivation. The body is starting to recognize 94. Actually, is that 91, I believe? 90, okay. Yeah, we're at 89. So we're already in that zone. Remember, 92 is right at the edge of it, so we're in the zone to the 80s now. And 87. So right now, Owen's done this a lot, so he could probably keep going and going. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to do about a 20-second countdown here for Owen and let him go a little bit harder, and then we're going to flip back over to the positive, okay? Because we're already in the zone. We're 87, 86. So Owen, here we go. 20. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Flip back to oxygen. There we go. So his heart rate got up to 140, 44 right now. His sat level got down to 84. And now it's starting to climb back up. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. We get below 92, we're in that zone. If you can push it down further, that's great. If you can't, don't worry about it. Everybody doesn't have to get to a certain number. Don't get stuck on the numbers. And once again, sometimes you may hit 95 and you just can't go below 95. Don't worry about that. When your body tells you need oxygen, go ahead and flip it over. Okay? We don't want to get too caught up in the numbers. Numbers are great. They're fun. And you can use these as a guide, but like I said, it's different with different people. So now he's all the way back up to 100 very quickly. So Owen is unique because Owen has done this a lot. He's in great shape. He's athletic. So his numbers went to 85. And remember, we flipped it at 85, and he dropped to 84 after the oxygen, okay? Now, for most people, especially when you first start this, you flip over to the positive at 85. A lot of times it'll drop even further. You will drop to 80, 79, 78, and your numbers may start going backwards. That's very normal. Don't worry about that because remember, whenever we flip you to oxygen, now you're breathing that 90% oxygen, and that oxygen is going to divert where there's a deficit of oxygen in the body. So if you've got a troubled area, you've got an area that has an oxygen deficit, you got inflammation, you have a blockage, you got injury somewhere, whatever it is, remember, oxygen, once you breathe all that 90%, it's going to go to that area. And when that happens, those numbers even drop even further, and sometimes they'll hang down there for a while. Okay, so that's pretty normal. He only went down 1, but most people actually go down further than that, and then it'll start to rise back up. So the rule we want to use here is as those numbers start to go back up, we want to try to get back to 97 plus before we go back down to low oxygen again. Okay. So he went back up really quickly, but some of you, especially the first time, may hang down there for a while, especially your right side because your liver is on the right side. A lot of times you'll notice your right side will hang lower than your left side. And if you've never done this before, a lot of times it'll go down and it'll start cleaning out and detoxing that liver, pushing out the old blood. And that's very normal and it'll hang down for a while. Okay. So just remember, don't panic if your number starts to drop even further. It stays down for a while. That's very normal when you're doing this. So 97 plus, why are we waiting until the number gets up to 97 plus before we go back to low oxygen? So that's why it's important not to get numbers set in your head or times. Like, oh, I got to go back down in 2 minutes. Wait for that number to come back up. It may come up really fast like it did with Owen. It may take a while. And the reason being is we don't want to interrupt the process. What I just explained to you about oxygen is diverted to the areas it's needed and where you have those deficits in the body, let it do its work. That's why you're doing these sessions anyway, right? You're trying to get oxygen saturation in the body. Let the work happen. Let oxygen get to where it needs to go and wait for that number to go up to 97. Once you're 97 plus, then you're ready to go back again, okay? But in Owen's case, Owen could go back up to 97 and go right back down, no problem, right? But for most people, he went up so fast, you still wait a little while, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, get a good oxygen saturation before you go back down, okay, depending on what kind of workout you're doing. This is a basic protocol. There's a lot of higher level protocols that we can get into at some point, and those are a little bit different where we're not paying attention to the numbers as much and we're trying to push the limit, red line it, but this is not one of those sessions that we're doing. Now his heart rate's back down to 116. It was up to 144. So he's pretty much recovered. He actually was recovered probably a minute ago, but for this purpose, he's recovered. So we can go back down to the low oxygen again, and let's do another round, okay? So let's create another low oxygen event. Let's create another demand, and let's pull it back and create that slingshot effect, okay? So remember, demand, 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 demand. Now we have 90% oxygen, pushes deeper in the body, okay? So that's what we're trying to do here. Create that oxygen demand in the body. All right, so again, we're at 100 up top. Below, we're at 122. It's the heart rate. And remember, these numbers are going to drop. Now, Owen, from the first time we did this, it seems like his numbers at about a minute or so, minute 15, started to drop. Some of you are going to drop faster than that. Some of you may start to drop after 30 seconds, 45 seconds. See, now he's starting to drop now, 97, 96, 95, 94. So now we're at the edge of hypoxia. We're at 92. We're right in that sweet spot. We're at the very edge of it. Now we're starting to dip down below. Heart rate's going up, 135, 136. Beautiful, 89. We're creating that demand, 87. Okay, we're going to go a little bit further into hypoxia now. And for a lot of you beginners, at this point, you're going to be like, I need some oxygen. It's getting a little heavy in here. Let me switch it over. And you're going to go ahead and switch it over. Owen could probably ride like this for a long time on low oxygen because his body is acclimated to this because he's done it so much. Now he's at 85, 84. I'm just going to show you how these numbers can drop. So just because this number is at 84 doesn't mean it's going to perpetually drop down. At some point, the body is going to adapt and go anaerobic, and those numbers won't start going down. Actually, they'll start going up on low oxygen, okay? And that's going to happen as well. So don't think that you have to ride on low oxygen for a long, long time and keep having the numbers drop to get the effect. You're still getting the slingshot effect. See, his number went to 84, and I doubt he's going to drop further. He's probably not even going to get in the 70s no matter how long he rides on the low oxygen, okay? Because his body now is adapting to it. But we're there. We're in the zone. We're in the low oxygen environment. We're in hypoxia, and that's where we want to be. We're at 148. So let's go ahead and do a countdown for Owen. Ready? 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oxygen. All right, we got him to 79. Okay, good. So we got to 79, heart rate 158. Now he's at 80, and now his number is going to start to go up, and it'll probably start to rise pretty quickly because he's, like I said, in good shape, good health, and that number is going to start to go north. And remember, we wanted to get it to 97 plus. So right now, this is where the oxygen is in most people. It's you're breathing it, number's still down, it's being diverted, it's going to the areas that it's needed. It's going to those deficits in the body. It's going to the tissue, inflammation, wherever you need it. Now he's going up pretty quickly, 91, heart rate's falling. 100, he went from 91 to 100. So again, really fast up. And again, I don't want you to think that your numbers have to go that fast because they probably won't initially. And they can hang down a little while, and don't worry about that. That's just part of it. Okay. So getting back to some of the other stuff we were talking about, remember, now we're back in oxygen. We're back in recovery mode. He's at 100 quickly. We don't want to switch back to low oxygen unless he was doing a performance, some type of performance protocol. But we're just doing a whole body flush. We want to make sure he gets plenty of oxygen in the body. So we're going to let him just pedal here for another minute or two. Let's say 2 minutes from now, get a good oxygen saturation, and then right back, we'll do another low oxygen event. Let's just go over a few things that this protocol is good for, just for overall wellness and health. Again, good blood circulation helps with a lot of things. Because remember, what we're doing here is we're giving the blood horsepower. We are infusing the blood with oxygen. We're making it move. And when you're making it move, that infused blood, when it's infused with oxygen, it starts moving around the body at a rapid pace. And now the red blood cells are carrying that oxygen deep into the body. And if you can get movement and blood movement in the body with that oxygen's a healing agent. It's a recovery agent, and it makes things start working again. Your circulation gets better. Things start moving better. You heal faster. You feel better. You have energy. All those things start to happen. So remember, we're just infusing it with oxygen, the blood, making it move, and getting it moving at a more rapid pace. And good things start to happen in the body when you do that. All right, so we're going to flip back to low oxygen again. He's recovered and ready to go. Let's do one more round here. Remember, watch those numbers. 99 on the oxygen sat, 132 heart rate. And again, like I said, Owen's numbers probably go out a little further than most people because he's in really good shape. But as those numbers start to drop, we start to create that demand. Okay, so this is a great protocol after doing a session or two, and you're like, wow, how come I'm not as sore as I was? You may still have a little soreness or may be gone altogether. And you're like, wow, how did that happen? It's magic. It's not really magic. There's a science behind it. And you get that oxygen down to that cellular level, and you can push out that inflammation and make it decrease. People that, now if you can see we're at 92, so right there at the edge of hypoxia, we're at 90. So now we're starting to drop down into that zone. We're in that sweet spot now. So let's do that countdown, Owen. Let's do the 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, oxygen. Now we flip back up the oxygen. And now we're going to finish up with about 3 minutes of just oxygen of Owen riding, taking deep breaths, getting a really good saturation at the end of your workout. We'd always recommend that you would do about 3 minutes of just oxygen, just riding at a normal pace, getting really good saturated at the end. Again, this is the basic protocol, which is good for anybody, whether you have a chronic condition, whether you're just trying to get in better shape, whether you just want, some, wellness, anti-aging. It's just, you can't go wrong with this one. It's a really good one. And you can pick up the intensity when you need to, and you can make it more difficult if you need to. As you can see at the end there, we had Owen increase and get his RPMs up the last 20 seconds. We did that countdown. Or you can just cruise and go slow. It'll take your numbers longer to happen, but some people want to sit on a recumbent bike and watch TV and do this, and you can certainly do that as well. And you'll still get in a hypoxic state. It'll just probably take you a little bit longer. Before you switch over, it's good to increase your effort and try to, I don't want to say sprint because some people don't want to sprint, but for me personally and for Owen, we would sprint the last 20 seconds and really push it hard before we flip it back over. Okay. I hope this gave you a good idea of what a basic protocol is, um, and how to use it and how to read your numbers and the timings on it. All right. That's it from Atlanta and from San Francisco Bay Area. Goodbye, Live O2 Nation. Which is cool. So really up to you. You can make this as difficult or easy as you like. But at the very end of it, when heart rate got up to almost 160, he's at 83, 82. And again, same thing we just did, dropping those numbers down, creating the demand. Now we're giving the oxygen. Now remember, the oxygen is being diverted to the areas it needs to be diverted to. It's filling in. If his legs were burning because he was sprinting on low oxygen, and that's going to happen when you're on that low oxygen and you start going and your body is not getting the normal oxygen, man, it starts to hurt, just like when you're running outside. But when you bring the oxygen at 90%, it'll relieve that in seconds, right? And so as you can see, now he's back up to 100 and 161 on the heart rate. So he got up there on the heart rate. Okay. So you get the picture and the idea of what we're doing. And again, over a 15-minute period, you're just doing that cycling through doing this cycle of the low oxygen, create the demand, supply, create the demand, supply, create the demand, supply. You're trying to supersaturate your body with oxygen. If you've got inflammation, let's say you work out a lot, you're really sore because you did legs and all this other stuff the day before, upper body, and you've got this lactic acid buildup. So this is a great thing for that, the whole body flush, because think about what you're doing is you're dissolving that oxygen to the blood plasma. When it gets down to that cellular level, it hits that tissue. You can convert a damaged, inflamed cell, and that's why you're hurting. That's why you're sore, and convert it back into an aerobic cell pretty quickly and push out that inflammation. And then you get off. Okay. So let's talk about a few more things. You know, when we're talking about recovery, this is a great this whole body flush protocol is a great recovery protocol. And what I mean by recovery is that